Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be looking at phase shift for the cosine graph. If you want to follow along, the links to the companion worksheet are in the description below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to see more videos like this. So let's get started. Now the idea of the phase shift is that normally cosine starts on the y-axis at the top, but in this case it's not. And so what happened is that it got shifted sideways. That's what phase shift is. It's a horizontal transformation. And so what we look for is we look for high points. And so we ask, what is that x value? Because what that means is that's how far it got moved over. Well, let's see. If I look at this x value, this is halfway between 0 and 1. So the phase shift is 0.5. But because cosine is repeating itself over and over, that's not the only possible answer here. You could also say, what about this spot? Well, it got moved over this much. And so if we look at the x-axis, that's going to be at negative 1.5. So we could say that that's the phase shift. Or finally, we could look at this point right here and say that it got phase shifted all the way over to there, which is halfway between 2 and 3, so 2.5. Now one thing to note is that these are separated by a width of 2. And that's not a coincidence, because that's the period length of this function. If you go over 2, it's going to repeat itself. And so, phase shifts, there's multiple answers that are correct. There is no one correct answer. Now most teachers will say pick the one closest to the y-axis. That's fine. But all of these are equally correct for finding the phase shift. So let's look at another one. So with this one, here, we've got this peak right here. And so that means it got moved over this much. And if I look, that's going to be 1.5, because that's halfway between 1 and 2. But what about this point over here? We could say that it got moved all the way to there. And that happens to be halfway between negative 8 and negative 9. So that's negative 8.5. So our phase shift could either be negative 8.5 or it could be 1.5. The other thing to note is because they are 10 apart, that tells us that the period length from here to here is 10 for this function. Now for this graph, we've got this spot right here. So we could say that the phase shift is 0. But we could also use this over here and say that it got moved all the way over to there. And so we could say that our phase shift is either 4 pi or it was 0. And so this function has a period length of 4 pi because that's how far apart these two phase shifts are. So then for this last one, similar to the one above, we could say that it has a phase shift at 0. But we could also say that it has a phase shift here, that it got moved over this much to pi. And so 0 or pi could be considered the phase shifts for this cosine function. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you have suggestions or problems you want to see worked out, type a comment below. To support the channel, click the Patreon link to help keep this going. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the best way to understand something is to do it.